I used to think I had seen every kind of war. I had fought underground, watched cities fall, and buried more soldiers than I could remember. I believed there was a limit to how bad things could get. I was wrong. It happened in a heartbeat. 1 moment, I was standing in the ruins of a battlefield, smoke hanging low, fires still burning where the last shots had been fired. The ground was shaking under my boots, not from explosions, but from something deeper, like the world itself was exhausted. Then the sky tore open. It didn't crack or split. It ripped apart. Colors I couldn't name poured out of it, red and purple, twisting through black like something alive. The air screamed. My body lifted off the ground as if gravity had simply given up. I remember reaching out, grabbing nothing, and then everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I was breathing, so I knew I wasn't dead. But I also knew I wasn't home. The air burned my lungs, smelled like hot metal, oil, and blood all mixed together. The sky above me was red, frozen in a permanent state of dusk. Towering structures surrounded me, massive and hollow, built more like weapons than buildings. Everything felt industrial, brutal, and ancient, as if this world had been at war for so long it had forgotten how to stop. Then I heard gunfire. It wasn't the sound I knew. These weapons were heavier, louder, each shot shaking the air. I moved on instinct, dropping behind broken stone as explosions lit the streets ahead. That's when I saw them. Soldiers in thick armor, moving in rigid lines, symbols carved into their chest plates. A double-headed eagle. They were shouting. As they fired, voices filled with rage and devotion. For the Emperor, I didn't know who that was, but the way they said it told me everything. This wasn't just a commander. This was faith. Then the enemy came into view. They weren't human. They weren't machines either. They were nightmares given flesh, all claws, teeth, and hatred. They moved with a hunger that made my skin crawl. I had fought monsters before, but these things felt wrong, like they didn't belong in reality at all. One of them turned toward me, eyes locked on mine, and in that moment, the truth settled in. I hadn't been dropped into another battlefield. I had fallen into another universe. And whatever this place was, it made my world look merciful by comparison. I didn't stay hidden for long. When the first creature broke through the soldier's firing line and charged toward me, my body reacted before my mind did. My hands moved out of habit. I raised my weapon, aimed for center mass, and pulled the trigger. The thing went down hard, sliding across the broken ground in a mess of blood and smoke. The soldiers nearby turned and stared at me. For a moment, no one spoke. I saw shock in their eyes, then confusion. After that came relief. Not gratitude, not praise. Just relief that someone else was still standing and killing the enemy. They shifted their formation and made room for me without saying a word. Number, questions, no orders. In this war, there was no time for either. As the fighting continued, I started to understand where I was. These men and women were part of something called the Imperium. They fought in the name of an emperor. They spoke. About like a god. Not a symbol, not a legend. A real being they believed watched them at all times. Every shot they fired, every step they took was tied to faith. Their enemies were endless. Creatures from other worlds. Twisted humans who had turned on their own kind. Machines that felt no pain. Things that looked like they had crawled straight out of hell. There was no single war here. There were thousands of them, all happening at once. And none of them ever truly ended. I watched soldiers keep fighting even when they were wounded, even when retreat would have saved their lives. They didn't complain, they didn't hesitate. Dying wasn't a failure to them. It was duty. That part felt familiar. It reminded me of home, the cog, of orders given and followed, no matter the cost. But the scale here was different. Everything was bigger. The weapons, the enemies, the losses. Entire city blocks were treated like acceptable sacrifices. Planets were talked about the way we used to talk about streets. Their guns were powerful, but their system was slow. Commands came from far above, filtered through layers of authority and ritual. Faith mattered more than speed. Obedience mattered more than survival. They believed hard enough, but they didn't always adapt fast enough. That's when I realized where I fit in. I wasn't a god. I wasn't chosen. I wasn't special because of destiny. I was just a soldier who had learned how to survive when plans failed and rules broke. I knew how to fight when things went wrong. And in a galaxy where war never stopped, that kind of skill was rare. It didn't take long for people to start reacting differently to me. At first, I was just another fighter on the line. Then they noticed I wasn't wearing their heavy armor. I wasn't shouting prayers. I wasn't waiting for orders before moving. I stood where the fighting was worst and stayed there until it stopped. I didn't fall back when others did. I didn't follow their rules. I focused on one thing only: staying alive and killing whatever tried to take the people next to me down. Officers watched me closely. Some of them liked what I did because results mattered more than doctrine when things went bad. Others didn't trust me at all. They saw someone who didn't fit into their perfect structure, someone they couldn't fully control. I could feel it in the way their eyes followed me across the battlefield. The priests were worse. Whenever I passed them, their voices dropped. Some stopped speaking altogether. They looked at me like I was a question they didn't want answered. I wasn't blessed. I wasn't cursed. I was just there, doing what needed to be done. And that made them uncomfortable. Then the Inquisition took notice. To them, I wasn't a mystery. I was a problem. I didn't kneel. I didn't repeat their prayers. I didn't claim loyalty to their emperor. I fought because the enemy was in front of me, not because someone in power told me why it mattered. They asked me a simple question, but the room felt heavier when they said it. Who do you fight for? I told them the truth. I fight for the ones standing beside me. The answer didn't sit well with them. In this galaxy, fighting without faith was dangerous. Fighting without fear was worse still. When everything fell apart, they had no choice. The attack came without warning. The sky burned, the ground split. Creatures poured into the city faster than their systems could react. Orders contradicted each other. Chains of command broke. Faith alone wasn't enough to hold the line. That's when they sent me forward. No speeches, no blessings. Just a direction and a silent hope that I would do what their doctrines couldn't. As I moved into the chaos, it became clear to me why this kept happening. I wasn't stronger because of belief. I didn't fight harder because of fear. I fought better because I had been here before, just under different skies. I didn't rely on miracles. I relied on experience. When the largest demon finally showed itself, everything broke. Soldiers who had held the line moments ago started running. Tanks that had survived direct hits stopped moving, their crews frozen or dead. The prayers that once sounded strong turned into screams. Faith collapsed the moment something bigger than belief stepped onto the battlefield. I didn't move. Not because I was fearless, because I had seen this before. Back home, monsters always looked unstoppable at first. Bigger, stronger, louder. They fed on panic. This thing was no different. It wanted us to believe it couldn't be killed. It wanted us to freeze. I refused to give it that. Every monster bleeds. You just have to learn where and when to strike. I watched it move. Heavy steps, wide swings. Too much confidence. It relied on fear more than skill. That was its mistake. Power without control always leaves openings. I used what was around me. Broken buildings for cover, burning wreckage for distractions, explosions to slow it down. Not to stop it. I didn't rush. I didn't roar. I waited, counted its movements, and stayed alive long enough to learn its rhythm. When it charged, I moved sideways instead of back. When it swung high, I went low. I aimed where its armor thinned, where flesh showed beneath the warp-twisted shell. It roared when it was hit, not in rage, but in surprise. That sound told me everything I needed to know. It could feel pain. The fight dragged on longer than anyone expected. Each step it took became heavier, each strike slower. The ground shook less. Its confidence cracked before its body did. When it finally fell, it didn't explode or vanish. It collapsed, hard, heavy. Real silence spread across the battlefield. No cheers followed, no prayers, just staring. Soldiers looked at the fallen demon, then at me, like they weren't sure what they were seeing was allowed to exist. In that moment, something became clear to me. In this universe, power wasn't just size or dark magic. It wasn't faith shouted louder than fear. Real power was discipline. It was control under pressure. It was knowing how to fight when nothing went according to plan. That was the difference I brought with me. I didn't need gods to win wars. I needed time, awareness, and the refusal to give up. And in a galaxy full of monsters, that was enough to make even the worst of them bleed. They don't look at me the same anymore. Some whisper when I pass. Some stare like I'm something dangerous that hasn't gone off yet. I've heard the names they use when they think I can't hear them. Weapon, curse, outsider. A few even say hope. But they say it quietly, like it's a sin. I didn't ask for any of it. The Imperium watches me closely now. Too closely. They want to know where I came from.